business?
Franchises are really corporate businesses that have been split up into little units so that an individual can be the manager of that unit and be highly incented for its success because he gets to keep the profits. So the benefits of franchises are many. Brand name recognition is a great big one. The average franchise business has 50% higher revenues than an independent business in the same industry. Training and business systems. With a franchise, you get initial training, but you also get ongoing support from the franchise management. They're always kind of looking over your shoulder because, well, they're getting a percentage of the top line. They want you to be able to grow that top line as much as possible. They usually have corporate quality business systems. Mm-hmm. And that's what enables the efficiency and also multiple unit ownership. Mm-hmm. Earlier you said that just because you can do the process, whatever it is that makes money, doesn't mean you can run the business. Well, in franchises, the normal direction given by the franchisor to the franchisee is that they don't want the franchisee doing the process. They want them managing the business and doing business development and making the business run efficiently and looking for ways to improve the business. They don't want them being lost in whatever the production of the product or service is. Mm-hmm. They want them looking at it as a business unit and managing it as a business unit. Mm-hmm. And that's what enables them to have multiple unit ownership. Mm-hmm. And so people often think, well, gee, why would I want to own, say, a hamburger business or something like that? I can only ever just run the one location and I'll never get rich doing that. Well, I have a client that bought one restaurant in 1994 and now he has 42 restaurants. And his gross sales are in excess of $60 million a year. Wow. And his net income is about 17% of that. So don't sneer at hamburgers or franchises.
Well, I mean McDonald's, of course, has been a classic moneymaker for many people.
And they're a great example of another feature of businesses, franchises, and that is business development. Mm-hmm. In the world of business, the law of the jungle is adapt or die, because the environment's always changing. And McDonald's is such a great example because remember when McDonald's used to be just hamburgers, fries, and soft drinks, right? Uh-huh. Well, now that accounts for less than half their sales. Mm-hmm. It's salads, it's wraps, it's yogurt with fresh fruit, it's breakfast with fruit, breakfast cereals. Mm-hmm. And they've had to adapt. And as a franchisee, you benefit from that corporate level R&D and corporate level market testing. Mm-hmm. So by the time you as a franchisee get a new product, it's been thoroughly researched, it's been market tested at different price points and different recipes and different packaging. And it's really been optimized. It's going to work for you.
Yeah, they've done the details. I mean, they're probably the extreme. And frankly, folks, McDonald's doesn't have the best hamburger, okay? But they have the systems. They know how to lay out an operation that works, and basically they can take 16-year-old pimple kids and make it run. So anyway, it is a great example from that standpoint. All right, now what if you go for the independent business route?
Well, independent businesses can be very good too, but there I think you need a much higher skill set to succeed, and you need to be very creative yourself. You need to be able to do all of these functions that the franchise is doing on a corporate level, but do them yourself. Mm-hmm. So that means
or hire them done.
Or hire them done, mm-hmm. And that may or may not be cost effective sometimes too. Uh-huh. So you're going to get some training if you buy an existing business from the seller, but it's fairly minimal training, and once that training's over, you're pretty much on your own. A lot of sellers are nice people, and they will come back and help you if you're having problems. And they're especially a little bit more motivated if they're carrying a note for part of the purchase price.
Absolutely, yeah.
Although the really mercenary ones will hope you fail and they'll foreclose on you. Oh. But I think that's the minority of people. I think most really don't want to be in that business again. They don't want to take it back. They want you to succeed, and they would be there to help you. But I think most business sellers move on. And so you're really kind of on your own.
Okay. Why would you consider working with a business broker when you're buying a business?
Well, I alluded to the law of the jungle out there earlier, and that was, of course, adapt or die. But in a lot of ways, the business world is like a jungle, and knowledge is power. A business broker will educate you and keep you from being eaten by the lions and tigers and bears out there.
Oh, okay.
A business broker will help you understand benchmarks for how to value a business so that you don't pay twice or three times what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
They'll help you with the process. They'll help you identify fatal flaws in businesses that should cause you to reject the business and not end up buying it and regretting it later.
Mm-hmm.
They'll help you with commercial leases. They'll help you with financing. And they have, if they've survived in the business for any length of time, they must have some negotiating skills. When you're their client, you benefit from those skills. Most people go out to buy a business. It's the first or maybe even the second time that they've bought one. But the broker does this all day, all week, all year. Myself, I've closed in excess of 350 transactions.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't count the ones that we worked on that didn't close. So I've had lots and lots and lots of experience at every step of the process. I know all the details, and I think most brokers are like that too if they've been in the business for a while. So the client, the buyer, would benefit from all this experience and knowledge that the broker has.
Okay. Who usually pays the fee to the broker?
In most cases, it's the seller who pays the fee, and there's a listing agent, and the buyer may deal directly with the listing agent, or he may deal with a cooperating broker. Mm-hmm. In some cases, the buyer pays the fee. There's some reasons why, as a buyer, you might want to engage the services of a business broker, and that might involve just paying a commission if you actually buy a business, or it could involve potentially some consulting fees up front, but generally not. Mm-hmm. And one big reason for this is that in that case you can be looking at businesses that really are not on the market. Mm-hmm. You can be assured that you're not going to be in a bidding war or even have just one other buyer that the seller uses as a stalking horse to get you to pay a lot more money. And you'll have the advantage of the broker representing you, and often the seller won't be represented, okay, and he won't be experienced. So you can really benefit as a buyer by retaining a broker and paying his fee.
Okay. What other professionals should be involved in the process of buying a business?
Well, obviously, you need a good accountant.
You do? Why do you need one of those?
Well, first of all, you would want the accountant to give you advice before you get started, mm-hmm, to evaluate your financial situation and also maybe learn a little bit about you, or if it's someone that you've had a long-term relationship with, they should be able to give you some insight as a friend as to whether or not you've got the personality to be the business owner. Mm-hmm. They might discourage you. Mm-hmm. But if it's a go, then when you find a business that you want to buy, some accountants are skilled in valuing businesses. They've studied it. They have all the tools. Others will refer you to a business appraiser, which might be another person. Mm-hmm. Most people rely on the broker's advice. The broker should be willing to provide a written appraisal with comparable sale data for you to give you a rough cut valuation. You'll certainly need an attorney. Mm-hmm. The accountant would be involved in due diligence, that is checking all the books and records to see that the summary level information given to you by the seller, such as tax returns or financial statements, ties to the detail level records, and mm-hmm, everything ties together to make sure that they're accurate. But the accountant and the attorney will work together in due diligence, because there's also a lot of legal due diligence to be done to make sure that, for example, there aren't any serious contingent liabilities, any lawsuits that the seller forgot to tell the buyer about, mm-hmm, any legal risks that the seller is going to try to pass on to the buyer, and whether or not the seller has a background of being in a lot of litigation, mm-hmm, and suing people. Maybe this is a person that, no matter how good a deal it is, you don't want to be in business with this person.
So maybe we should talk about that for just a moment. So do you think you should do some background checks related to the person, the seller?
Absolutely. I think it's a good idea for the buyer to check out the background of the seller, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. I know we're talking about looking at this from the buyer's point of view, but a buyer should understand that a seller needs to do due diligence on him as well. Yeah. The buyer should be prepared to disclose everything about himself, not just a credit report, but also bank statements, a deed to your house to show that you really own it, like you say you do, even a background investigation if required.
So there's an old saying, you can't make a good deal with a bad guy.
I believe that. That is definitely true.
Okay.
There are lots of other folks that might be involved, and typically
So,
inspection services.
Yeah. Now, why don't you talk a little bit about inspection?
Okay. One sneaky thing that people don't think about often is the commercial lease may have contingent liabilities in it that the seller can pass on to the buyer. And these would relate to deferred maintenance. In a triple net lease, the tenant is responsible for taking care of all the maintenance on the building. And as a buyer, if that lease gets assigned to you and you haven't checked these things out, in a month or two you could realize, oh my gosh, I've got to spend $20,000 to put a new roof on this building. And if I'd only had it inspected, then I could have confronted the seller about this and he could have taken that burden. Heating, ventilating, and air conditioning equipment, restaurant equipment, especially walk-in refrigerators. All of these things need to be inspected by a competent technician, and they need to be serviced. And this is a standard procedure. If a broker is representing you, he's going to make sure that'll happen.
Yeah, and a big area that has come up over the last several years is hazardous waste for certain types of businesses.
Even in restaurants.
Yeah.
Restaurants typically have a grease trap. Sometimes this is a 5 foot by 5 foot by 10 foot cement container buried in the ground right outside the restaurant, between the restaurant and the street. And it needs to be emptied frequently. And if it isn't, everything in that will turn to just like concrete. And the only way to get it out is to jackhammer it.
Oh boy.
And it is an expensive and dirty, nasty job.
Yeah.
And also, if they don't frequently flush their sewer lines, they'll rust through.
Oh boy.
And you may end up jackhammering the floor out of a restaurant to put in all new sewer lines at a cost of $50,000. So inspectors are very important when you're buying a business to make sure you avoid contingent liabilities for deferred maintenance.
So Greg, where did the time go? We're already about out of time.
Oh my God, we only got to the second page.
Yeah, so anyway, so obviously buying a business is a very involved process, and it can be very helpful to get some professional help. And you want to avoid skipping steps because this is a major investment. You're talking about something that you may be spending many years working at, possibly the rest of your life. And so it really makes sense to do that due diligence and spend the time and the money to investigate and to make sure that you go through the process properly. So get good help, get these professionals involved, be sure to do the investigation that you should be doing. Folks, big deal when you have a business in your life, I can tell you, because I've got one, Greg's got one. But it can be worthwhile and rewarding. See you next time on Financial Insider Weekly.